I think, my sense is that at TYT, they saw Hassan make just a ton of money and have a huge amount of success. And I think there was, in certain parts of TYT, there was resent. And, I don't know Anna particularly well. I'm not sure that we've ever actually met in person.
Well, she's a big fan of ours, though, so I'm sure she's watching, Sam.
But I get the sense that she's watched our program too.
I think that's really a lot more common than people who, Sam, it seems like you've been, I mean, I know for a fact you've been at this a long time. You actually believe that you could have done other things and you decided to put politics first. I feel like a lot of people, they just realize, oh yeah, hey man, a lot of dumb people will watch right-wing YouTube and they'll praise me and they'll send me super chats and I won't have to stand on my feet for 8 hours a day. I won't have to work in a cubicle. I can be praised all day. And I don't know about you, but Gavin and I have been scratching our heads over here. We're not sure if it's something in the water over in that particular part of California. If we're going to be revealed that, whatever the treatment facility is under some sort of like an Enron scandal of the modern age where the water's just no good at the faucets of the Young Turks network. But we've seen Dave Rubin, who I think fits that description of Tim Pool to a T. And then you have Jimmy Dore, who also, he can't resist. He has to go down the right-wing rabbit hole, right? He has to go and humiliate himself. But now we're seeing a third barrel or a third individual start to circle the drain. And I want to know what you think about it, because Anna Kasparian has recently announced her unalignment from the political left. She said she no longer feels that she can be considered one of us in times like this. And she wants to talk about the real grifters, not Jimmy Dore, not Dave Rubin, not the litany of conservatives that are making money hand over fist, defending and rampaging on behalf of the criminal, bloodthirsty siege of the people in the Gaza Strip. I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see, Sam. But she says the real grifters are the progressive branded nonprofits that have repeatedly misused public funds. Why won't the left call them out? And she goes on to talk about how she's voting against an increase in taxes for nonprofits to prevent homeless people because she still wants to be able to complain about it as her number one issue, in my view. She says, I'll be voting no on Measure A, which is to plan to raise another $1 billion through what she calls a regressive sales tax to build homeless shelters, housing, and other services. So the big grift is taking away money from the hard-earning people like Anna and giving it to homeless shelters and other NPO organizations that are interested in combating what is a serious crisis in Southern California. But that's not all. If you go back a little further, you could see her most recent article where she talks about how gangs are taking over Aurora, which is a suburb outside of Denver. I happen to have spent a lot of time in, and I can report back safely that there are no gangs taking over this poor suburban enclave, as even their Republican mayor notes. So I'm just wondering, what is it that makes people do this ideological pivot in their late 30s?
Well, just to add to that Aurora thing, 2 points. I can't help myself. One, the Aurora thing, it turns out those guys in that video weren't even part of a gang. That video that went viral, apparently coming out of Aurora, I guess it was like a week or two ago, the police said they're not part of a gang. I'm not familiar with Measure A, although I do think sales taxes, I do have a problem with sales tax being a little regressive. I would do a different type of taxation, but I don't think that's her point. I think, I mean, look, I came from this. I came from a world where, I was working with a lot of people who had when I left that world, at least in terms of professionally, had, a decent amount of celebrity or fame. And there's obviously in show business, you run into a lot of people who sort of like really want celebrity and money, of course. I mean, look, I want to be able to make money. But I think part of like, I don't know if it's a function of LA, to be honest with you, or, but part of it is like for people, they get super excited about the celebrity aspect of it and the money aspect. And it's, you guys know it's hard work. And I think, my sense is that at TYT, they saw Hassan make just a ton of money and have a huge amount of success. And I think there was, in certain parts of TYT, there was resent. And, I don't know Anna particularly well. I'm not sure that we've ever actually met in person.
Well, she's a big fan of ours, though, so I'm sure she's watching, Sam.
But I get the sense that she's watched our program too. I mean, look, I think she, for a long time has, wanted to figure out how she could, bust out of TYT. I know oddly enough that like, well, she was doing that show with Michael at, the Jacobin. And I have a feeling like there was maybe a sense that there'd be more opportunity there. If they built out that, I know Michael was planning to do a daily show with the Jacobin. I don't know what part Anna would have played in that, but maybe it was, maybe there was opportunity there. And that was an opportunity for her that obviously didn't exist after Michael passed away. And I imagine there's some frustration. And I think like, look, Jimmy did a Comedy Central special, I think, 25 years ago. And
still has the same jokes if you see him live.
I would have no doubt about it. But I think like, this was a way to revive his career. I mean, I know Dave Rubin, I spoke to a writer whose kid went to the same school as my kid, like 5 or 10 years ago. And he said to me like, oh, Dave Rubin, I wanted to talk to you about this. Dave Rubin would just like harass me to write about him all the time. I think it's just like a real desperation for fame, celebrity, and money. And I think this, I think after they do this for an extended period of time, it's hard. It's tiring. Sometimes you feel like, it's, people have maybe thinner skins than others, and they start to chase where they're getting clicks. I mean, to me, it's a parody. Somebody posted a parody like this when I was on Chapo years ago. We made a joke about like how we would do a right-wing turn.
We always joke about being the Trump supporting stoners.
This was like in 2016 or 17. And I was like, yeah, no, I've thought about this for years. In fact, Michael and I used to do a fake right-wing show on Halloween and on April Fools. And the reason why we did it 2 times a year was because like we so desperately wanted a break from doing, it was like this is gonna be like a day off. Like we don't have to do anything. Like all the talking points are there. And for a long time, the joke was like, this is how I do it. And even when I got divorced, I'm like, this is it. This is my opportunity. When you get divorced, you're mad, like I'm an angry old divorce guy. And it starts with like, my wife's, making me, my ex-wife's making pay child support. And then like, it just like builds into like a broader sort of misogynistic palette. And then I realized like, and that's how
you might be the only man with the platform that dodged that bullet. I want you to know. I mean, people I would have sworn up and down were going to ride with the left until the end. Like Matt Taibbi going hysterically, right on a number of issues and then not even correcting course when the shrapnel hit Ken Clippin. I don't know. It was really ridiculous for me to watch that one. And I'm like, if Matt Taibbi is going to go down, like who the else? I mean, you and Ryan Grimm, you're like the only middle-aged dudes with principles, it feels like. Not middle-aged.
I'm older than Ryan. He will not appreciate you putting me in the same age category as him. But yeah, I think it's just a different, I mean, look, there's a lot of like in politics and in this sort of, and particularly in this space, but in general, there's a lot of people who have socialization issues in some ways. I mean, I'm not the most well socialized person. And I think there's, often people are in this space because there's some, trauma often that has taken place. But honestly, like, I think that's like why you start to advocate for
talk about politics. Oh yeah. Just advocate for,
advocate for, specific groups of people. And, and then sometimes that spins off and goes awry. I mean, it's weird that I guess you do see it go the other direction a little bit. Like there's a couple of people who have done that.
Taking a poverty oath, though. A lot of people don't want to do it.
It's definitely not as lucrative. I mean, I think I have a theory about this whole tenant media money, which is that the reason why getting $100,000 per video 4 times a month did not set up. I mean, that's what Rubin got. Rubin made $5 million in a year for doing 4 videos a month. And Tim Pool made somewhere around that too, or some, and I think the reason why it didn't set off any alarm bells is because I think they get subsidized in one fashion or another. Maybe not to that amount, but I think they must get, situations like that somewhat on the regular. Because I mean, I can tell you Peacock, the choice, what they called it, or the MSNBC on Peacock licensed the Majority Report, and it wasn't anywhere remotely close to that. And I understood why they were coming to me, because if I could just give them my show, it's much cheaper than them having to produce one. And, there was some measure of confidence that I wasn't going to be, that I could actually deliver a show, because I'd been doing it for, 15, 16 years or whatever it was. And even that money was not even remotely close to like significantly. I mean, I think Rubin made what I made in a year in less than 2 weeks off of that. And I'm, it's a daily show. And I think the reason why they took that money with basically like, we need to see some photocopied sheet of paper that purports to, for Robot Rijard or whatever the guy's name was, Gerard Depardieu or whatever.
Sounds like a extra in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, exactly. Like just sort of some French Canadian actor. I think the reason why they took the money was because it wasn't, it was more than probably they had gotten in the past, but like the idea of like somebody coming in going like, we're going to give you $100,000, for the next 6 weeks to tweet out shit like this. I think that happens all the time. There was that report that Semaphore did where, what's his face? George Santos was on a call, and it was a Zoom call where people were getting like $20,000 to tweet out and create content around Kamala Harris being a slut. Check that report out. And I'm convinced like, oh, this shit happens all the time for them. Cause I've been doing this for 20 years and I have never, ever